Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu and I'm back with another Digimon deck profile video. So today I'm going to be taking a look at BT08, and BT08 offers us lots of new and exciting mechanics to think about building some really interesting and powerful decks around. And today's deck I'm going to be highlighting is going to be the Armor Rush deck. So the Armor Rush deck is almost exactly as it sounds. It's basically a Rookie Rush-esque style of deck, so low to the ground, very aggressive, using the Armor release ability and Armor type Digimon. So the best Digimon to use this with is going to be Veemon, just because, well, Veemon has lots of different branches on how he evolves based on the different Armor evolutions that he has. And then we're going to close out the game with a DNA Digivolution finish, because Blue has access to lots of different DNA Digivolutions as well. So without further ado, onto the deck profile. Starting off with the Digitama, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Upamon. So Upamon is still just one of the best generic Digitamas that we have to be working with for Blue, just because it's going to be acting as a solid card draw engine. So what this card is doing is it says that as an inheritable ability, when we attack with this Digimon once per turn, if the opponent has a Digimon with no Digivolution sources in it in play, then we get to draw a card, and because we are a low to the ground aggro style of deck, we want to draw as much cards as we possibly can to try to be able to have as many possible playlines as we could possibly make. And then, as far as the 5th Digitama of the deck goes, it could really be anything you want it to be if you even want to run a 5th Digitama. I'm just going to be choosing to run 1 copy of Demi Veemon from the All-Force starter deck, just because it's one of the more easier and generic ways that we have to try to DP boost our Digimon to make them a little bit stronger. So it states that as an inheritable during your turn, while you have 8 or more cards in your hand, then this Digimon gets plus 1000 DP to make more powerful plays possible. Next, on to the level 3s, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Veemon. So this is the BT03 version of Veemon, and this is one of the most aggressive rookies that we could play early on, because he has the native ability of jamming, allowing us to swing into the opponent's security and feel really safe about that swing, knowing that he won't be deleted against the opponent's security Digimon. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Veemon. So this is the BT08 Veemon, and this Veemon is going to be one of the deck's dedicated diggers to try to find some of our parts and pieces. What this Veemon is looking for more specifically is 2 color cards. So he has the on-play ability where we get to reveal the top 4 cards of our deck, add a 2 color card with a blue in its color from among them into our hand, and then the rest go to the bottom. The crazy thing is, not only is this mostly going to be looking for our level 4s, it could potentially find our level 5s or 6s if you're going to be running any, and on top of that, you could even find our 2 color options if they share blue in its color. So this just has a wide variety of cards that we could search for, making him one of the best digging tools that we have in the deck. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Veemon. So this is the starter deck version of Veemon coming from the All-Force starter deck, and we're not really going to try to take advantage of his warp ability, although we could plan and build the deck around it if we really wanted to try to incorporate it. But what we're really trying to do is utilize his inheritable ability to have some extra card draw. So his inheritable ability states that when we attack with this card, not limited to once per turn, if you have 7 or fewer cards in your hand, then we get to draw a card. So he's just trying to help keep our hand as full as possible, so that way we have as many different play lines as we could possibly have, and helping with the overall consistency of the deck. And then the last rookie of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Veemon. So this is the starter deck version of Veemon coming from the Imperial starter deck, and this Veemon is looking for our other free type Digimon. So he has the on-play ability where we get to reveal the top 3 cards of our deck and add a card with free in its type from among them into our hand, and then the rest go to the bottom. So his search condition is a little bit different, but regardless, he's just trying to find more of our parts and pieces. Next, on to the level 4s, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Lobomon. This doesn't necessarily have to be Lobomon, and it could be a flex spot in the deck. You could replace it with anything. I'm just electing to go with some hybrids because, well, having a hybrid that digivolves on top of a tamer is still really powerful at trying to squeeze in some extra damage and possibly be a win condition. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Raidramon. So even though Raidramon, yes, does Digivolve for 3 off of a level 3, he also has another Digivolution condition where we could Digivolve him on top of a Veemon for 2. So this is the reason why that all of our level 3s are going to be Veemons, is to try to make easy access to our level 4s, so that way we're not overpaying for them and we could actually utilize them. And then on top of that, the reason why we want to utilize them is because all of our armor Digimon are going to be very aggressive Digimon because they have the armor release ability. So the armor release ability states that when this Digimon would be deleted, then you get to trash the top card of this Digimon's stack to prevent the Digimon from being deleted, essentially de-digivolving one instead of him actually getting deleted. So that way we turn back into our level 3, and then we could Digivolve on top of that level 3 again, really forcing the opponent to be able to delete our Digimon twice in a single turn, and that might be a little bit too much for them to ask for, making armor release an insanely powerful mechanic. Then on top of that, it also has a nice when Digivolving ability when we're actually utilizing him to be aggressive with, where we get to suspend one of the opponent's level 4 or lower Digimon. Most of the time, if they were playing any blockers, they would be on their level 4 or lower slot, so this could help suspend those blockers so that way we could actually push our damage through, or we could use this card to try to control the opponent's field and pick off their mid to low level Digimon. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Flamedramon. So Flamedramon has that same style of ability where, yes, he does Evo for 3 off of a red, but we don't care about that because we could Digivolve him off of a Veemon for 2. The crazy thing is we could actually utilize that in the raising area, so that way we could safely Digivolve into a Flamedramon and not have him be as exposed, even though, yes, he does have the armor release ability to try to protect the Digimon and try to keep a Digimon around. Sometimes always Digivolving in the battle area isn't necessarily the best thing when we could avoid it and have a very powerful follow-up play because we hit something powerful in our raising. Then on top of that, the big reason why we want to use this card in our raising more often than not is because he has a when attacking ability, not a when Digivolving ability, unlike Raidramon, so we could try to gain some advantage for using this card where he can gain plus 3000 DP for the turn, so that way we could try to make some powerful plays happen just because of this when attacking ability. And then the last level 4 of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Magnamon. So Magnamon is going to be the big powerhouse card of the deck next to our Jagras or DNA Digivolution card, just because he's going to be one of the more powerful level 4s that we have access to. So what this card is doing is he has lots of different evolution points, so even though he could Digivolve on top of a blue level 3 for 4 or a yellow level 3 for 4, we're going to be Digivolving him for 3 off of a Veemon, so that way we can make his evolution a little bit cheaper. Then he does have the blocker ability native to him, so if we do need to use him defensively, we can as well. He also has that classic armor release ability to help protect himself and keep a Digimon around, and then on top of that, he has a very powerful when Digivolving ability, where we get to unsuspend this Digimon, and then for each card with armor in its stage in our trash, then this Digimon gains plus 2000 DP until the end of the turn, so the later the game goes, the more powerful this card becomes, and the fact that this card already can multi-swing, or we could hard play a rookie, Digivolve into Magnamon, and have a blocker on the field to stop some of the opponent's aggression, is still just really good, so we have lots of different abilities to use to make the most out of this card. And then the last Digimon of the deck and only level 5 of the deck I'm going to be running is going to be 3 copies of Kaimaramon. So Kaimaramon is a very good and powerful card for this deck to be using, even though we don't have the best ways of searching him out. He's just naturally a really strong card because of his DNA Digivolution ability to Digivolve on top of 2 level 4s for 0, and there is no color restrictions or requirements. Then, because we're already playing with lots of 2-color Digimon, blue being one color and a secondary color being different between all of our different armor Digimon, we could try to take advantage of the fact that we're going to want to use as many different colors as possible, because his when Digivolving ability states that we get to place a level 5 or lower Digimon from our trash to the bottom of this Digimon's Digivolution source. Then up to 4 of the opponent's Digimon get minus 1000 DP for each color this Digimon has until the end of the opponent's next turn. So we could easily get him to be 4 colors to be able to minus out 4000 DP on 4 of the opponent's Digimon, and that lasts until the end of the opponent's turn. And then on top of that, he has a secondary ability to help try to push the fact that he really wants to be an aggressive Digimon, where during your turn, this Digimon is also traded as all of the colors in his Digivolution source. So with us having easy access to 3 various other colors on top of him being white, it's not hard to get him to be 4 colors to trigger this ability, where When this Digimon has 4 or more colors, then he gains plus 4,000 DP, making him 12,000 DP for a level 5 to be playing around with for some very easy and safe swings. And then on top of that, because he is a DNA Digivolving Digimon, he could just be very aggressive with, so we could swing with 2 of our level 4s, then if they both live, DNA Digivolve into Kaimaramon and do very powerful things to help further the aggression. Next, on to the options, I'm going to be running 1 copy of Ice Wall. So Ice Wall is limited to 1, which is the reason why we can only run 1 copy, but this card is still that good of a card where we want to include it anyway. So what this card is doing is it has the main ability where all of the opponent's Digimon gain, when attacking, lose 2 memory until the end of their next turn. The powerful thing about this card is it's any Digimon coming from anywhere, so it doesn't necessarily matter if it's coming from the hand, if it's coming from the tamer space or raising area. All of their Digimon will have this ability, de-incentivizing them or taxing their attacks to make their plays less powerful if they can't finish the game. And that's really good because it could try to buy us some time to be able to try to win the following turn with. Then it has the really annoying security ability where we get to gain 2 memory. So that way, even in the security, it's still trying to de-incentivize the opponent from wanting to attack and limiting their further actions because they hit Ice Wall in security. And speaking of that powerful security effect to take away 2 memory, we're also going to be running 4 copies of Hammer Spark for that same type of ability. But the upside to Hammer Spark is it's also a really good instant tempo card, helping us gain some memory because of its main ability to gain 1 memory, so that way we can make some very powerful follow-up plays with that we might not have been able to make otherwise. And then as far as a 2-color option goes, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Megadeth just because it's one of the best and cheapest control type tools that we have access to. So this card, it does require a blue card and a green card to be on our field at the same time, which isn't necessarily the hardest for this deck, but regardless, this is still just that powerful of a card because we get to suspend one of the opponent's Digimon, then return one of the opponent's suspended Digimon back to their hand. So at worst, we could try to suspend the same Digimon to bounce back to the opponent's hand to basically act like a better version of Kakaitis Breath, or we could try to use this, because this is 2 separate instances of the effect, to suspend one Digimon and bounce a different Digimon if a second Digimon is already suspended. So there's just lots of different possibilities on how to use this card, and it's also a really good security card to have because its security ability activates its main. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Fire Rocket. So even though Fire Rocket is a red option card, we do have a blue-red Digimon to play this with, but it doesn't necessarily matter because it has the ability where while we have a Digimon with armor and its traits in play, then we get to use this card without meeting its color requirements. So just for having armored Digimon on our field allows us to have easy access at this card, and this card is one of the best cards to help push the aggression for an armor-based deck forward, because its main ability states that one of our Digimon with 2 or more colors gains security attack +1 until the end of the turn. So basically either our Kimeramon or any of our level 4s that's not our hybrid is going to be able to deal some extra damage thanks to this card, and its security ability, while it could be useful, probably isn't going to be triggering a whole lot, where we get to delete one of the opponent's Digimon with blocker, so it's just a good card at trying to help push the overall aggression. And then the last option card of the deck is going to be 2 copies of Armor Texture. So Armor Texture is a really interesting option card because it's basically allowing us to form swap our Digimon. So it has a ability where we could use this card ignoring its color requirements as long as we have an armor Digimon in play, and then its main ability states that we get to trash the top card of one of our Digimon with armor in its attributes, then one of our Digimon can Digivolve into a Digimon with armor in its attribute from our hand by paying its Digivolution cost, and then we get to unsuspend this Digimon. So basically the whole idea is we're going to swing with a Digimon, then if that Digimon lives, we get to use Armor Texture to delete the top part of the Digimon, reducing it to a level 3, and then Digivolve it right away into a different level 4 to unsuspend and then be able to swing again, or use it for various different things. So it's just a very powerful card to help multi-swing with and to try to fill up our trash for cards like Kaimaramon. Then on top of that, it has a nice security ability where we get to play a level 3 Digimon with free in its attribute from our hand or trash without paying its memory cost, so that way it's acting like a security Digimon when it's hit into the security, and we have some really good on-play abilities on some of our level 3s to try to take advantage of this ability with. And then lastly, onto our tamers, I'm going to be running 3 copies of Davis. So Davis is just still an absolutely insane memory fixing tamer for this deck to be running and for blue to be running as a whole because of the consistency that he brings to the deck. So not only does he help make our plays more efficient by always setting our memory to 3 if it's ever less than 3, but his on-play ability allows us to check the top 3 cards and add a blue and a green Digimon from among them into our hand, and then return the rest to the bottom. So we do have the availability to potentially take 2 cards off of this card to help with its overall consistency. And then the last tamer of the deck is going to be 3 copies of Davis and Ken. So Davis and Ken, even though we're not leaning too heavily into the blue-green part, this is still just a really good card to help gain us some passive memory on top of our memory-fixing tamer. So at the start of our main phase, if we have a blue Digimon in play, then we get to gain 1 memory, and if we have a green Digimon in play, then we also get to gain 1 memory. So it is possible for us to gain 2 memory off of this tamer relatively easily thanks to Raidramon and Kaimaramon, but regardless, we're using this card to, again, try to push the overall aggression of what we're trying to do with the deck. So it has the nice ability where during your turn, when your Digimon digivolves into a Digimon that has 2 or more colors, then we get to suspend this tamer to unsuspend that Digimon. So in combination with the jamming Veemon, so we could swing with the jamming Veemon, digivolve into any of our armored Digimon, and then be able to unsuspend that Digimon to be able to swing again thanks to Davis and Ken. So there's just lots of good combo play and power potential in what this card has to offer for the deck, because we could also use this in combination with Kimeramon, if we're just digivolving him normally for 4. And then as far as other tech and tools that you can include in the deck, there's just a lot of different things that you could do depending on what you want to double down on and the cards and abilities you're trying to take advantage of. So we could try to take advantage of some various other Veemons because we do have access to even more Veemons. So we could use the BT02 Veemon to try to help draw some extra cards when we unsuspend our Digimon, so we could double down and incentivize on that unsuspend sub-theme. And we also have the Veemon from the Classic Collection to gain us a memory for that same style of ability. Then we also do have some anti-meta Floodgate rookies in the form of Shakumon and Madoki Betamon to try to take advantage of because, well, we're in blue and we could just have these cards passively sitting on the field to stop the opponent from some of their actions to make their plays less efficient until they deal with our Floodgates. Then we do have a whole bunch of other really good level 4s to play, so we could play around with the BT03 X Veemon, because we could use this card in combination with our Armor Digimon to be able to make some extra swings with it. Then we could also play the Classic Collection version of X Veemon to double down and incentivize our DNA Digivolution plays, and we have multiple different DNA Digivolutions that we could try to take advantage of depending on the color combinations and other tech and tools that you're going to be running in the deck. And then we do have various other armor evolutions that we could try to take advantage of. Even though we're not going to be using them for their cheaper cost, we could still play them because some of them can digivolve off of blue, and they are armored Digimon that we could take advantage of. So Halcymon is another really good one to try to help control the opponent's field, and we also have Submarinemon to, again, try to help control the opponent's field for a very similar style of ability. Then if we do want to try to line up different DNA Digivolutions or Jagresses, then we have various other cards that we could hard play to try to make it going into a Jagress or DNA Digivolution even easier. So if we are trying to use more of the blue-green color combination, then we have access to the starter deck Stingmon. Then in BT08, we also have access to a yellow one and some yellow DNA Digivolutions in the form of Ankylamon. Then one of the best DNA Digivolutions that we could take advantage of in the blue-green color combination is going to be Flamedramon to be able to easily aggress onto the opponent and be able to multi-swing thanks to its when attacking ability. And if we wanted to, we even have Shakumon to line up those blue-yellow plays because, well, we're already playing Magnamon, we could splash in Ankylamon to make easier use out of our Shakumon. So Shakumon is a really good card to help with some of the defense and control in the deck. And then on top of that, we could think about splashing in a little bit of some level 6s, and there's no better level 6 if you're taking the more DNA Digivolution approach than Imperialdramon Dragon Mode, because we could separate his inheritable sources to be able to line up another DNA Digivolution. But if you wanted to, we could also think about running All-Force Veedramon, just because we are already running the starter deck Veemon to help gain some extra card draw, and the multi-attacking ability off of the starter deck All-Force Veedramon is a really good card to think about utilizing to help push some extra aggro, while also having a solid war point, so we don't even necessarily need to have a level 5 to be able to utilize that card. Then we do have some very powerful options that we could run in various different colors because of just how multicolors work in general. So we could run something like Howling Memory Boost and Blue Memory Boost to be able to help find some of our cards more consistently or shut off some of the opponent's line of play, while lining up a good delay ability to gain some memory at a later turn. We have various other blue cards that we could run in various control tools. Then we also have a card like Lightning Blade, where even though it is a green card, we have green cards to play it from, and we could use this card in a armor-based deck, disregarding its color requirements because of its ability to. Then what this card is doing is it's acting as a solid boost option to be able to help make our Digimon a little bit stronger and give them the piercing keyword to actually be able to beat up the opponent's Digimon and deal damage at the same time. And then we also have Plasma Shot as another really solid control card to use in combination with our Armored Digimon, because we could, again, ignore its color requirements if we have an Armored Digimon in play, and it helps control the field with DP reduction, which is something we're already leaning into thanks to Kaimaramon, so we could reach even higher levels of DP reduction to be able to delete even stronger Digimon or more Digimon than before. But this is just my interpretation of a really solid core or shell and foundation for what an Armor Rush deck is doing. Because it has lots of different tech and tools that you could incorporate, it really makes the deck super flexible to be able to adapt to various different metas to stay meta relevant, and that's the really fun and crazy part about this, is just all of the different possibilities that this deck has, making it one of the more fun decks to build and play because of all of those tech tools and answers that you could possibly have for various different metas. So that's all I really have for this video. As always, feel free to tell me your thoughts down in the comments below, and down in the description below are a couple of different ways you could support me and the channel. So I do have a TCG Player affiliate link, so when you use that link to buy cards off of TCG Player, then some of that money will go to supporting me and the channel. I also do make and sell playmats over on Overcard Gamers on Facebook, so when you buy a playmat with my design, then some of that money will also go to help supporting me and the channel. And on top of all of that, I do have a Twitch account over on twitch.tv/Zenitsu, so giving me a follow and a subscription also helps support me there, and I do play Digimon on top of various other games on that platform as well. So thank you everyone for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next video.